So apparently not many people come to Greenland in the winter. I mean, it is almost minus 20, so it is very, very, very cold here right now. But on the other hand, it's just incredibly beautiful. I'm here in Ilulissat on the west coast of Greenland, looking out over Disko Bay here, and it's just absolutely stunning. So we put this trip together about 1.5 years ago, and I was starting to think it was never going to happen. We've had so many problems with this trip, with flight schedules cancelling and changing because it's just one flight here a week and one flight out a week, with boat charter cancellations. So more than anything, it was just a relief to be in Reykjavik airport last week, flying out here, and then the flight over here was without a doubt one of the most incredible flights I've ever had. So one of the things I love most about coming to a new place is working out all the challenges of photographing it, and for that you really need to kind of find what the essence of the place is, what it really makes you feel. Now, one of the things about this place, about coming to Greenland in the winter, is I'd seen actually very little photography from here from this time of year, so I didn't really have much in the way of expectation. So just walking around and just discovering this place, seeing this these communities here, seeing this place for the first time, it's been really, really wonderful, just letting it soak in and seeing just how this place feels. It's not that you're necessarily trying to capture that in one image, because I don't think you can. But it's the story across maybe a portfolio, a selection of images, and the theme that I'm going to have for the way that I shoot here. It's going to kind of define the way that I see it. Every time I try to compose an image, what's in my mind, what am I feeling about the place that I want to communicate with that image. So there's a lot of new experiences for me here. Things like dog sledding, going out on a boat shooting icebergs, standing on the edge of the ice fjord. So you're really trying to get to the essence and the core of a place, this place that's kind of surrounding you 360 degrees with all the sights and smells and sounds, and really trying to identify what that is and how that's going to shape the way that you photograph it. Now, you can't walk far in Ilulissat without seeing that dog sledding is a massive part of the culture here. Now, we spent an afternoon dog sledding, and I quickly learned that it's almost impossible to capture images of that while you're actually on the sled. So what we did was we just focused on shooting portraits of the dogs when we weren't sledding. Now, the best way to shoot them, I find, was backlight, so looking right into the sun, getting the dogs backlit with a really fast shutter speed because they're constantly moving. So using a wide aperture to help with the fast shutter speeds, and also to drop the background out of focus. Now, Ilulissat is a fascinating town. It's full of these colorful buildings just built on stilts and rocky outcrops, and I just didn't want to come home just with photographs of icebergs, because this place is so much more than that. It really is a fascinating place, and I really wanted my portfolio of images to reflect that. So this is Disko Bay. It's a really large bay just outside of the town, Ilulissat, where we're staying. And it's full of these huge icebergs which break off the Arctic sheet and break off some of the glaciers here and just drift around the bay. Now, what we're doing at the moment is we're on a boat just cruising around the icebergs. It's something that we've done a couple of times. We were here yesterday doing this because it's just such an amazing experience, but it is quite challenging to photograph. The icebergs here are huge, really, really big. And as we drift past them, the challenge in photographing them is how you convey the scale, because we're on a boat, so it's constantly moving and you can't really find foreground. So everything that you shoot is shooting it with long lenses, kind of abstracts of the ice walls. Now, what that does is it removes a lot of the scale. You really don't get the sense of how big these icebergs are, because they're just towering above the boat here. It's absolutely amazing. So what I'm doing is I've got the long lens on and I'm just looking at the ice sheets as we drift past them and trying to create abstracts with the textures. And it's something that's really nice to do. The textures are amazing with the light being so low here, because we're at such a northerly latitude. The light's really low and it just cuts across and gives us these really nice, contrast, just really picks out the textures in the ice. So the abstracts are nice, but it's still not quite enough. So what we've been doing a lot of is just waiting for birds to fly in front of them, because it gives you that point of interest, and it also gives a bit of scale. Repeated patterns are really nice, textures are really nice, but what really brings it out is if you've got like a point of difference or something that breaks the repeated pattern, something for the eye to go to and not just move around amongst all the texture of the iceberg. So we're spending so much time just waiting for birds to fly across the frame, trying to capture them as they go. Now what that means is we're having to shoot with a really fast shutter speed, and that also helps because we're on a boat that's moving. So most of my shutter speeds here are about 1/500, 1/1000, which means increasing the ISO, shooting with the lens relatively wide open just to get really fast shutter speeds. But I'm really not sure what the image is going to look like until I get home and have a look at them. It's a totally unique experience for me. I've never done anything like this before. So what's been really challenging is just to get over that sense of awe of being in this place and work out how best to shoot it, work out, how to solve the problem of how we're going to shoot this iceberg. But at the same time, it's really important just sometimes to put down the camera, to put it away and just sit back and just take this in, because this is just an incredible part of the world. I feel incredibly lucky to be here, and I don't want my only memories of this place to be just the images that I took here or memories of me trying to work out how to photograph this place. I'd just really like to sit back and enjoy this place and let it soak in. So we're here now. It's quite late in the afternoon now. You can see the light's already low. We're going to be staying out here until sunset, and what's going to happen then is the colors are going to go really soft. At the moment, everything is blue here, so the shadows are really blue. We've got blue in the water, blue in the sky. That kind of works. I think you can work with that from a photographic point of view, but as the sun gets lower and it dips into the horizon, the colors are going to soften. There's not going to be that harsh contrast on the front of the icebergs, and we're hoping that some really nice pink yellow hues are going to come out. The contrast is going to be lower, the blue in the water will disappear, and it should be really, really beautiful. Now, as I said, we had really harsh contrasts and a really deep blue sky, and wanted to minimize this in the images because I don't really like deep blue sky. It just gives the image this feeling of a postcard. So I spent a while playing around with the white balance and just saturating the blues to try to fit in with what I felt about the place, because processing for me is when you can really bring out the mood and the feel of the place, which is of course a very personal thing. Now I wanted to capture an image using the sea ice as a foreground leading towards an iceberg, but there wasn't actually that much in the way of plates of ice floating in the sea. When I shot this video, it was one of the few times when we actually saw some, but I wasn't really happy with the shape of the iceberg in the background here. So when I finally saw this perfectly arranged sea ice leading towards this ice pyramid, I was actually shooting with the telephoto lens on the camera, and the boat was moving pretty fast, so I knew I wouldn't have time to change lenses. So I had to attempt to grab an image with the iPhone, but unfortunately the camera app was still in video mode. So I ended up shooting a couple of seconds of 1080 video footage of a composition, which I was really happy with. So to get this as a photo, I did a frame grab using QuickTime, and then in Lightroom, I used Topaz Gigapixel to increase the resolution of the image to around 20 megapixels, and then edited it. Now it's good enough for viewing on a screen, particularly a phone, and I could probably print this up to about 15 to 20 centimeters, or about 6 to 8 inches. But beyond that, the detail will start to fall down. Now, as the sun got lower, the contrast really reduced and the light got much softer, and the sky took on some really beautiful pink and magenta tones with the alpenglow lighting up the faces of the iceberg. But finding a composition was still quite challenging because we were on the boat and there was really no foreground. But the lighting on the icebergs really helped give some depth, so it was just a matter of trying to find interesting shapes. And I'm happy with the tones in the sky, but I couldn't really get an angle or a composition where I could separate the iceberg from the land or from other icebergs. Now, we also got the chance to shoot these same lighting conditions at sunrise and also at sunset from the coastline just above the ice fjord, just a short walk away from the village. And being on solid ground allowed us to use our tripods with the lower light levels. It's just before dawn, so we've got this really wonderful pink glow just on the horizon. The light's so soft now. These big icebergs just off the coast here in the bay. They've got this wonderful soft light. They're really low contrast, and they've just got a really cool blue tone from the dawn light, and it's wonderful to shoot. Now where we are, that closest iceberg here, that's about 2 kilometers away. So from a shooting perspective, it's a little bit challenging. All you can do here is use a telephoto. You're not going to use a wide angle because it's just going to fill the foreground with the rocks here. and then the icebergs are going to be so far away as they won't be relevant in the photograph. So we're shooting with long lenses, and then the problem is really that there's not really any depth. There's no foreground, so you've just got these tones of color. You've got the blue of the water, the wonderful tones in the sky, and then the icebergs. It's a really wonderful scene to see with your eyes, and it is wonderful to stand here and photograph it, but you feel the images when you look at them on the back of the screen lack a little bit of depth. Now, I suspect these are the kind of images that we're shooting here that are going to look great as prints. If you print them really big, you get that sense of scale and place that we have here. But I don't think these images are going to look great on a screen. When you look at them really small, you're going to lose a lot of that sense of grandeur, that sense of the epic. So another way of shooting it is with a drone. So we've been getting the drones up, but again, everything is really far away here. Just the closest iceberg is 2 kilometers. So that's kind of, you're a long way away. You have to be very careful about wind, making sure you can get the drone back so we're not hovering around the icebergs for too long. But even with the drone, getting depth into the images is a challenge. They've got a very wide lens, so to get the whole scale of the iceberg in, then you have to be quite far away. One of the other things that I've enjoyed doing is just finding these little bits of broken sheet ice and just looking straight down, waiting for some of the fishing boats to cut through the ice and shoot images there. But beyond all that, this is just an amazing experience, just standing here in this incredible place. Yeah, we're really freezing, but it's just a wonderful experience to be here.
Now, even though I really loved this soft light, it still felt that the images were a little flat and lacking in any depth. We're shooting elements that are a long way away, so you've got the empty space of the ocean and the sky. So the iceberg is just doing all of the work compositionally, and I didn't really feel that I was getting images that really communicated the scale or the grandeur of them. But finally, on the last night when we went back for sunset, we got a sky full of wonderful clouds and beautiful light, and it really felt like all the elements were coming together. Just having some interest in the sky really elevates the images that we could take from the shore. So I was much happier with some of the frames, and I felt that they really captured that mood that I was going for with these images. But it was the drone images that really worked the best. The wind dropped completely, which allowed us to fly the drones all the way out to the icebergs without any stress, and then spend some time around the icebergs framing compositions. Now, the drone has a wide angle lens, so being able to get close to them and shoot with some elevation really works. Composition is always about finding balance, a strong focal point that the eye will move towards and anchor the image. Having a great sky and beautiful light really helped, but it really was this elevation and being able to get closer to the icebergs with a wide angle lens that really helped complete the composition. So we could play around with the reflections and use the ice sheets to balance composition and provide leading lines. And it was just fantastic to have this on the final night of the workshop and finish on a high.
So that's it for this video. I hope it's been interesting. I hope it's been useful. If you've got any questions at all, just drop me a comment below or send me an email and I will get back to you. Now, if you'd like to join me in Greenland, if you like my photography and the way that I shoot, I'll be back here in Greenland next year for a workshop, as well as going back to Lofoten, Iceland. I've got workshops in Patagonia, the Dolomites, and Namibia, and I'd really love to have you join me. So if you're interested in doing that, you can find full information on the workshops on my website. So have a look there and let me know. And as ever, thanks for all the support of the channel. Good luck in all your photography and take care. See ya.